Hello everyone, today we're looking at Dawn of Defiance, a brand new survival crafting game that released into Steam Early Access on August 15th, 2024. The game supports up to 4 players, but my first impression is based on a solo playthrough. I have now spent just over 4 hours playing, and I have so far greatly enjoyed my time in the game. Dawn of Defiance plays similarly to Enshrouded, although in my opinion Dawn feels like it's slightly earlier in access than Enshrouded was when it released. What I mean is that you're more likely to see animation glitches and mobs occasionally getting stuck in foliage than you ever saw in Enshrouded. Other than those small glitches like I just mentioned, the game has so far been largely bug-free for me playing in single player. Anyways, what's the game like? Well, you start out on a smallish island that lets you learn the ropes of the game. Completing most of that content took me about 4 hours, but you could probably spend a lot more time if you wanted to build a large base or if you wanted to scour every single corner and build everything possible. To complete the island, you'll have to explore and find 3 shrines of power and restore the statues at each shrine. You do this by first learning the recipe for 3 distinct stone weapons, you carving them at your base, and then restoring them to each of the statues. Once you do that, you'll be able to interact with the shrine, restore its flame, and then in turn, you can gain an ability from each shrine. The 3 abilities that are available are an air dash, gliding, and falling damage immunity. Once all the 3 shrines are active, you'll also be able to open the door to the Temple of Hecate. There, you'll then have to collect a good amount of resources in order to build a portal that then summons a boss for you to defeat. Although, in my opinion, the mobility upgrades are fun to play with and may eventually set the game apart, they are currently not as effective as the glider and grapple from Enshrouded. That said, I do want to explore their use a bit more, maybe in combination with some potions that might make their utility better. Yes, as you explore and you gather resources, you'll unlock new recipes based on resources that you gathered. You'll also come across these golden and silver chests that grant you new recipes as well. And as a side note, it appears that silver chests can only be opened at night, although I'm not completely sure if it's all silver chests or just some of them. Dawn allows you to build just about anywhere, and therefore it's currently quite easy to plop down a foundation and then a bed on top of it anytime that you're going to engage in some combat. Doing this vastly shortens your downtime if you fall in battle, and I highly recommend doing this before exploring the caves and definitely before fighting the Guardian in the starting island. As with any self-respecting survival crafting game, you are required to build your own base where you'll house all of your crafting stations and stored items. I was a little disappointed to see that you can't craft directly out of your storage as you can in so many other games now. Maybe this is a feature you can eventually unlock like in Enshrouded. We'll see. Base building works well, but like always I am left wishing that there were more building shapes to choose from. Maybe this will be available later in the mainland, so I'm not sure it's worth spending the time to build an intricate base in the starting island. You can at least angle structures at more than the standard 90 degrees, so it should be possible to build some more interesting structures. Combat is serviceable at worst and great fun at best. In general, I found ranged combat more enjoyable than melee combat, and that's partially at least due to the sound design, which helps you get immersed. Thrown spears make scary whistling sounds as they go past your ears, and they hit the ground or objects with a satisfying, if somewhat terrifying thunk. Arrows fired from your bow follow a predictable arc, and it's possible to get yourself a perfect headshot if you estimate the distance and the angle correctly. Melee combat is a bit basic depending on your taste, but it works fairly well. The game's hitboxes seem good enough, and I never felt out of control of my character's actions. There are basic attacks, a charging attack that you can do from a sprint, and supposedly you can do a jump attack once you have the card swall ability, but I haven't figured it out yet. Blocking prevents damage provided you have enough stamina, and you will stagger if you do not. Perfect blocks can be followed up with a shield slam, which is always nice to see. All that said, if you're just facing a single opponent, it's pretty easy to just spam attack and overwhelm them before taking more than a single hit from them. However, most enemies are grouped in 2s or 3s, and sometimes more. Groups of 3 or more tend to have at least 1 or 2 units that will preferentially use ranged attacks, so you'll want to manage your sightlines as much as possible to avoid being peppered from a distance while you melee the units closing in on you. Like many other successful games in this genre, this gameplay loop is exploration, resource gathering, crafting, and base building, which then brings about progression. And I am here for it. I enjoyed every minute I spent with the game, and at the end, that is what truly matters. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of things that are lacking in the game, but they largely amount to the spit and polish that you would see on a more expensive title. For example, the soldiers guarding the temples currently just stand still until you aggro them. It'd be nice if they were moving, talking, and otherwise living in the camps that they guarded. But that small detail doesn't really detract from the enjoyment that comes from defeating them in combat. The main caveat with the game is that it is early access and not all the game content is present. The most obviously missing chunk is about a fifth of the world map that's currently locked and contains 4 of 12 temples that must be challenged by the player to complete the game's story. As this is a first impression, I have yet to really explore the main landmass, so I can't really speak to how complete that part of the game is. Currently, the game is selling with a discount of 25% until August 29th, and that puts its price in the US at $14.99 or $15. I think that at this price, it is well worth picking up if you're a fan of open world crafting survival games. I hope the developers continue to work on the game and deliver on its full potential. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.